Homes England have announced that Rutland County Council has been successful in its bid for the Housing Infrastructure Fund. This will ensure that we're able to influence the future redevelopment of St George's Barracks. This is good news for Rutland. A bid for £29 million was submitted in March 2019. I think it's important to remember why. St George's Barracks is a large brownfield site which the MOD owns, and they want to redevelop in line with national policies around the creation of homes and jobs. They've made this very clear, and the redevelopment of the site will take place. Government has set a target to release enough public land for 160,000 new homes by 2020, with redundant MOD sites to accommodate housing and employment, and any money resulting from the sales to be invested back into the UK Armed Forces. Now, we recognise that development on the scale at St George's means a lot for Rutland. That is why we are working with the MOD to make sure any development on this site is controlled, sustainable and meets local needs, and in particular delivers homes that young families can afford. We want to make sure that the MOD's plans for St George's Barracks strike the right balance between the government's ambitious agenda for housing and the needs of our local communities. We know the housing numbers and infrastructure are big concerns in Rutland. And because we share those concerns, that is the reason why we bid for this funding. This will mean that we'll have the money needed to put critical infrastructure like road improvements, a new school and new healthcare facilities in place first, before housing creates additional demand for those local services. This money will also support the development of shops, public transport, playing fields and other communal facilities. This funding is not a guarantee that redevelopment will go ahead. There are still lots of processes that must be followed to decide whether the future development at St George's site is permissible. Rutland's local plan review will determine whether St George's is included in the county's next local plan. This will decide if the barracks are included on a long list of sites where building of new homes and businesses should be focused in Rutland over the next 20 years. Planning permission will also be needed before any development can take place at St George's. Rutland's Planning Committee is an independent body and must assess all applications in isolation, based on national planning policy and what is included in our local plan. Councillors also need to decide if they'll accept the award of the Housing Infrastructure Fund, as this will be dependent on whether there are any conditions attached to that funding. Therefore, if councillors agree to accept this grant funding, and if St George's is included in Rutland's next local plan, and if the planning application on the site is approved, this grant funding will mean that essential infrastructure works can be brought about in advance of the redevelopment, so that improvements to roads, infrastructure, healthcare and schooling come first, before new housing puts extra demand on our local services. Overall, this is good news for Rutland, meaning that we can control the future development of the site, making it right for Rutland.